Grab your print or digital copy of Go Queen magazine today. Stay inspired by the incredible stories and features inside. Visit our website to grab your copy now. Hey Queen, welcome to another episode of the Q Chat. Today we're joined by the extraordinary Ursula O. Robinson, a creative force whose work spans theater, education, and empowerment. You may know Ursula from the jaw-dropping, scene-stealing performance in Tyler Perry's new film, Divorce in the Black. Her on-screen presence is nothing short of captivating. As a professor, playwright, and director, she has dedicated her life to inspiring others through the arts. Her passion for storytelling and her commitment to using creativity as a tool for social change make her a true visionary. In this episode, we dive into her artistic journey, her thoughts on the power of the arts in education, and her mission to uplift and empower through her work.
She's a queen about her business, working hard on a mission. Head high, purpose driven, crown on, never tilted. Go queen. Go queen. Go queen.
So thank you guys for joining another episode of the Q Chat. Today, my very special guest is Miss Ursula O. Robinson, and Miss Ursula is a professor of drama at the South Carolina State University. She's also a playwright and an actress, and I know you guys recognize her. She's currently starring in Tyler Perry's Divorce in Black. So, of course, we're going to talk about that infamous funeral scene. There's no way I'm going to let her leave without discussing that. But we're also going to talk about her beginnings and her roots and what made her have a love for acting and also teaching others. And, of course, our favorite topic, self-love. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for this opportunity to be on here to talk about my journey. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so happy for giving us your time. 'Cause like I said, you got to remember the little people before you blow up. Because I know you just things. But I wanted to, like I said, we're definitely going to talk about that funeral scene. But I want to
Right.
start off just asking what your beginnings, because I know, like you, like I said, you're a professor. You've been doing this for a good time with acting, and I know you're teaching others and younger children with the love of acting. So I want to start off with your beginnings. What made you decide to have this acting bug, and what was your upbringing like as well?
Well, it's amazing how I started. I started accidentally, so to speak, but it was all in divine purpose. Well, my mother is the oldest of like nine kids. And so my mother had me when she was like 26, but she had younger siblings that were like maybe 10 years older than us, right? So my youngest aunt, had the charge of babysitting all of us. My mother had five kids, my aunt had three. So she had to babysit eight kids who were really like 10-year difference, right? So one day she decided it would be a great idea if we all became carolers so we could sing Christmas carols. And we didn't agree to it, but my grandmother said it was a good idea. So we all had to go and sing Christmas carols. So we went around to the neighbor's house and we sang the songs. And then my other aunt decided, oh, it'd be a great idea. We sang the songs in front of the family because every year at Thanksgiving and Christmas, my entire family on my mother's side would get together. And that means all of the kids, the grandkids, the great grandkids every year. And so they decided a great idea for us to sing the Christmas carols at the Christmas gathering. Then my other aunt decided that we should add in a nativity scene. So we took all my grandmother's good linen and stuff that she put out for the Christmas holidays. We just took them off the rack, put them on our head, and we did the nativity scene. And I don't know whose idea it was that we should add talent. So then we started adding talent to the event. And the boys got together and they sang Silent Night by the Temptations. And the girls didn't want to sing anything. And I think it's when I started writing some poetry and started doing different things. And I fell in love with it. I was already in love with writing. So I was already writing then. I think I can't remember the exact age. I want to say 6 when I first wrote my first poem. It was real short, real simple, kind of like a haiku thing or something. And my mother loved it. And I remember getting up somewhere and saying this poem. So I've been acting really or performing or doing entertainment since I was a kid, since I was 6. And I loved it. And so it came out of what we were doing for Christmas. And so Christmas every year, I'm ready to perform. I still have that in me. I'm ready to perform. I work with the children at my church at Spiritual Foundation Ministries, and we do something for Christmas. We do something for Black History Month. I also started doing those things in the church too. Um, in the church. My grandfather was a pastor of 2 different churches. He was also a superintendent in the Church of God in Christ. So I went a lot of times to church. My mother was a minister of music, so I went with her to church all the time. And we would get involved in the things that they would do with the kids, the plays, the Christmas plays, and dancing, doing liturgical dance. I did all of that growing up. So I've been performing for a long time. And to me, I feel like God gave me the gift that He gave me so that it would save my life. And what do I mean by that? I mean that as I went through the toils and traumaticness of being a teenager and being a plus size teenager and going through all that other stuff, I had my writing, I had my drama. And to add to all of that, my sister and my aunt that made us go Christmas caroling, both of them were big fans of movies and the soap operas and that kind of stuff. And my sister, being older than I was, I had to follow her rules, right? So my sister made me watch the Tonys, the award shows, and at first I had to watch it because she had charge over the TV, but then I wanted to watch it, and I have this vision of me laying on the floor with my hands like this, legs kicking up in the air, watching the Oscars and going, oh my, I want to do that. I want to be there. I want to get an award. And so I have had that in my mind a long time. And I tell people growing up and into my young adulthood, I would say don't do that, Ursula, because you're going to be famous one day and the people going to find out. So don't do that. I just do it in another name.
I love it.
Yes.
I love that. Just so many things. First of all, I think just being in church plays is a lot of preparation. Like those church plays are really serious. People don't realize that. So just
Yes.
family and everything. And we actually have a lot in common. My mom is number 7 out of 10 kids, and my
Oh,
dad is number 9 out of 9. So that's
oh,
just a
wow.
backstory. So I understand how it is to have a big family and just also being a kid and just being exposed to the arts. It's such a great thing. And I know, like, you teach children, as you mentioned, but just being exposed to the arts is a plus. And it is like, I know as a child too, watching the Oscars is like, it's glamorous. It's Hollywood
Right.
glamour. That's how I first learned about Dorothy Dandridge. It was
Oh,
watching
wow.
Oscars and just learning history about, oh,
Yes.
the first Black actress nominated. And I'm like, wow, I just love the whole Hollywood aspect too. So I understand with that excitement. So I wanted to ask you too, like, and this is, I love how you said too, how God gave you that gift, because it is a gift, and just to have something that you enjoy is a blessing, and to be able to make a career out of something you love is something not to take lightly, because a lot of
Right.
people don't get that opportunity to
Right.
live their dreams and to just do something that they simply enjoy. It's just not something that everybody can experience. So I think that's a great thing. So I want to ask you, so what was the transition for, obviously you were exposed to acting and performing early
Hmm.
on, but as we mentioned, sometimes people, they take that gift and they may make it a hobby and not truly pursue it. So what was the feel inside of you from being that 6-year old watching TV and performing with your family to once you got older and say, hey, I'm really am going to make a career out of it? What was that type of transition like?
Well, I knew early on that this is what I was going to do. I started taking drama classes in the public schools, and I started, joining the drama club and those things. I just can't remember wanting to do anything else, and maybe I did. And I know I used to play school, and I was always the teacher. Because I was usually bigger than the other kids, so I was always the teacher. Sometimes I was a student, but I love teaching, I love acting, I love performing, I love doing all of those things, and I just couldn't imagine doing anything else. So I don't remember a time in my life where I went, "Oh, I want to be a cook." Oh, I want to be this. I like, no, no, I'm gonna act. I didn't know how it would manifest. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but it has been on my mind for forever. And I tell people I couldn't do anything else. I've had other jobs. I've had lots of jobs. And at the jobs, I use my acting skills. And in fact, I used to be a long distance operator, working at night and when I was in college. And one of the things that I was also a telemarketer too. And one of the things that the lady, one of the people who do the training, listen to your phone calls, and she was like, "Oh, Ursula, you're an actress. Act like the thing." I was like, "Ooh, don't desecrate my gift by telling me to act like something on these phone calls to get these surveys done, honey." And I was I was more offended by that than anything else that happened. But I knew even then that what I had was meant to be seen by people. My first dream really was Broadway, because I didn't think that television and film were looking for women who looked like me when I was growing up. So if I could say anything that changed, is my idea of going into television and film has changed. And I realize now that television and film is about people of all kind of walks in life and everything, and it's about people, and they want people who look like people. I have a very interesting face. They want interesting faces and people who can convey people and emotions. When I was growing up, I just really thought television and film was about pretty people, pretty skinny people, um, people not necessarily interesting faces, but people who look pretty on television and film. And that was my impression. And I think at one point in time, the industry kind of was that way. And if there was something unique about you or something that you could kind of get something going on. So I went from stage to television and film. Now that was a bigger transition, I think, than from kid to being an actor. Because I've always wanted to act. I've always wanted to be a playwright. I have always wanted to be out in front of people. I am that person who, at the party, I'm going to be that person that's going to do something. That's just kind of who I am.
I love it. I just, and and I'm happy that, and I know, like, just for women of color, just women in general, just breaking in any industry, I think it's unfortunate that we have to think about like how we look,
Right.
like, oh, do I
Right.
fit this aesthetic, but unfortunately that's reality. So I'm happy that
Right.
you didn't let that stop you, and that you were, like I said, anything to still pursue your dream regardless, because there's so many
Right.
people who, same thing, they grew up watching things on TV and they loved it, but something stopped them from pursuing that. So I
Mhm.
commend you for just being able to say, hey, I'm still going to pursue this in spite of, because there's a lot of people that they can't get past the in spite of part, like they're sitting on a dream, instead of just going for it. So I want to, like I said, a lot I want to ask you, but let's get to it. Let's talk about this infamous funeral scene. I want to talk about I, I know when I watched it the day it came out, like the first 9 minutes, I was like, "Oh my god!" So, and so I definitely have to ask about that scene. Like, what was going through your mind? Like, was this in the script? Did y'all ad lib? Like, what was going on that scene? Like, just
No.
everything about this.
Mr. Perry wrote that scene. Tyler Perry wrote that scene. And when I read it, I was like, oh my. Oh, okay, this is going to be very interesting. But now, as an actress, I was like, oh, yes, yummy. Every actor wants a scene that you can, I guess to say, exercise your acting skills. Like you could just put it to the test, go to the extreme. As an actor, I loved it. When I got the script, I was like, yeah, of course. I was a little nervous. I like, girl, you doing this for Mr. Perry, and you doing this. The whole world's about to see this. Well, I didn't think the whole world's about to see this, but I was like, you doing this for Mr. Perry, but I didn't know that it would be this big. People told me, and one of my sons, I still call him my son. One of my sons in the movies, like, Mom, and they call me Mama. Well, some of them call me Mom. It's like, Mom, you said it. You said there has never been a scene like this in a movie. This is going to be big. And I remember thinking that. And I think over the time, because we filmed it last year, and over since that time, I've also done a TV series with Mr. Perry, and I've done some other work since then. And he reminded me that I did say this. Because tell me, have you ever seen the opening of a movie like this?
Absolutely.
Never. Never. And I knew that that would capture people's attention. Now, I didn't know I would be a meme. I didn't know that I would be international. I just left the International Black Theater Festival in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and it was a company out of Chicago. And when I walked into the restaurant, they go, "There's Miss Linda. Oh, that's Miss Linda." And I'm thinking, "Wait, y'all in Chicago?" And these people from all over the world have seen this, but seen this movie. It was number one globally. That took me by storm. But now when I got the scene as an actress, I was like, yeah, eat it up, eat it up. Yes, let's do this. Let's make this happen. And I think my nervousness was making sure that I gave Mr. Perry what he needed for that particular scene. And if I could take you into the filming of that scene, the where it was an actual church. It wasn't a set. It was an actual church that people were still worshiping in, and there was no central air. But Mr. Perry had a AC unit brought in, but you couldn't run AC while you were filming. So in those moments with the people hollering and screaming and doing all that and the heat, it was so real. It was so real. And yeah, and I'm just telling you, is the atmosphere helped push me as an actress. And he did a great job of creating the right atmosphere to get the actors where they needed to be. And that was so genius of him. But I think he's a genius anyway. That opening scene, honey, it pulled you in and you wanted to know this story. You want to know, who are these people? What are these crazy people about to do? If we went crazy at the beginning, where else are we going to go on this wonderful ride?
Wow. Where was it filmed? Because it seems so Louisiana to me. Like, where was that filmed?
It was somewhere out. Okay, I don't know the exact location, but we were in Savannah,
Oh,
Georgia, and we were shipped from Savannah to somewhere about an hour away or something like that. I can't remember the exact location, but yeah, we're in Savannah, and then we went somewhere outside and it was in the woods.
mm,
Not completely in the woods, but in the back of the house was the woods and stuff. If you remember in the film, they did the shot of the church. That was an actual church with their parsonage house or the little fellowship house beside it and everything. And it was in the woods and it was part of a particular community. It was a perfect choice, I think, for a setting for this particular story.
yeah. I mean, it was very realistic. I mean, like I said, I was thinking it was in Louisiana simply because I've been in those old school churches where there's
Right.
certain amount of pews, and yeah, it's hot. They don't have central air, so it was a straight up old school Southern church for sure. And like I
Right.
told you, one thing like that we laughed about before we started filming, which like I said, I don't know if younger people are gonna pick up on that you were wearing a slip, like
Yes.
discussed, like
Yes.
real old school, like you had to wear a slip under your dress for church. Like there was no such thing as leaving the house without a slip. And then my mom had
Period.
full up, the full slip, so
Yes.
when I saw that, I was like, wow, do they still sell slips? Because it just brought me to a place because church, a slip, it was just like, I don't know who thought of that part too. Like, but if that part was, I was like, okay, this is for real. Like, we're her in a slip. Because I was like, I was like, wow, it just really brought me to just sitting in a hot Southern church. So that was very realistic to me.
Yeah, it definitely was because it was it, and now that all of that was designed, and I just stepped in as an actor and accepted it. They did a costume fitting with me, and they engineered the slip so that I didn't have like everything spilling out of it and everything. It was actually very modest, and I was like, people like, oh my god, I never would have did. I said, honey, I had on more clothes than some of these people wear out here in the streets, okay? Hey, my slip came past my knees, and I had on a pair of shorts and another shirt up under that slip. So you wasn't seeing nothing but your imagination. You go to some of these, and not even to the beach. I was thinking like, oh, people wear less when they go to the beach. No, 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 no. People wear less when they going out to the club, to the grocery store, to the whatever. And so, and I've had some comments about that, but yeah, I'm perfectly fine, perfectly okay with what I did because I think that it was needed. Tell me, would it be the same if I had just taken off my jacket and threw the jacket? No, you got the point. When I went down to my slip, that's a whole nother register of rage and anger and pride. To make the story work, this particular character had to be so inflammatory and so big and who she was so that you could see where Dallas came from. You could see why her son did all these things because he was her do boy. Remember, now, if those of you who haven't seen it, this might be a spoiler alert, but I had my son as Linda do some things that were pretty, pretty, pretty awful. And you had to realize this connection between us, where he came from, because that was his foundation. And it was part of some good old fashioned storytelling. Mr. Perry told that story, laid the groundwork for it, and I am so blessed that I was a part of it. Now, we get back to slips. I had to grow up wearing slips, stockings, undergarments, and sometimes we had to wear two slips because maybe the slip wasn't thick enough or whatever. We have a half slip on, a full slip, pantyhose, girdle, honey, sweating in this 100-degree heat, going to church, making sure that we modest. Honey, I'm glad that we don't have to do all that stuff now.
Right, right. I mean, and I like how you broke down the background, the correlation between Dallas and the mom, because I don't think a lot of people thought about that part. So I'm happy that
Mhm.
you mentioned that too. So I wanted to ask you, because of course Tyler Perry, he sparks a lot of conversation with his works and everything. How was it working with him? Because obviously I know, like, so far I know you said it was a good experience, but give us some insight on how it is to work with him, because I'm sure it's an experience for sure.
Oh yeah, he is a beautiful person. I can't even say anything other than wonderful. He is a wonderful person. He's an artist. He's a humanitarian. He's somebody who really cares for people. And I don't think people I know I think people do know that about him because he does a lot of philanthropic things. He does a lot of good in the world. He does a lot of good in the world, and working with him, I was a little scared. I was like, I walked on the sets, And I'm trying to be like, he's saying that, tell me your name again. And I was like, um, I'm Ursula. I'm playing Linda. Like, Ursula, the man cast you, he may not remember, get your name and get over. He know who I am now. So, but that moment, I was like, oh, Ursula, da da da. And after that, honey, we've been just having a good time, enjoying ourselves. I love working with everybody, not just Mr. Perry, but everybody at Tyler Perry Studios. Let me tell you, this is, if you want to work with some folks, these some folks to work with, because not only did they embrace me, they have been a benefit to my students. They are offering to help me to do, master classes with my students, to let me videotape things so that I could share it with my students. And it's, to me, that is bigger than just being a support to me on the set, making sure that I give the character life, the three-dimensional life. They cared about who I am as a person. That to me was a step beyond what they had to do. But they cared about Ursula. What's Ursula doing? Even down to the person who takes care of the travel for Tyler Perry Studios. Very nice person, very wonderful young lady. And I haven't had a bad experience in working with them. And it was great. I love Tyler Perry Studios. I love Mr. Perry. I love everything about all of my experiences. And I'm still in contact with cast members. I'm still in contact with the guys, young men who played my sons. And I'm still in contact with Debbie Morgan, with Richard, and all these other different people. So it was a great experience. We became family over that time period and in telling that story. And it's great. It is wonderful working with Mr. Perry. And I appreciated that he saw in me Linda.
Mhm. Awesome. That's great that you had such a good experience because I know like one common thing that people can say what they want about him, but one common thing that everyone says working with him is how they were treated fairly. And especially when you see like OGs that's work with him that's saying like they've never been paid properly until they work with him, which is sad and great, at the same time, it's great that he's paying them their work, but it's also sad because I mean, like he's worked with some people that have been acting a long time, So, like I said, I know like he sparks a lot of conversation, but I do commend that every person that's worked on his films, they have glowing things to say. They seem like they've been very respected and just seeing people like yourself. Now we're being introduced to you, and I think that's a great thing. So I'm just very happy to hear, what it's doing with your career and everything too. Now, of course, I want to ask you because I know, like you said, you've been teaching the kids, and I also think that's great. I can only imagine what your students were thinking that you're working on this production. So I just think, I just think that's a great thing. I want to ask you, of course, I want to get into your teaching. There's a quote that I read that you said, arts have the ability to change people's lives for the better. So I
Yeah,
think
they
that's such
do.
a beautiful statement and what you're doing working with these young kids. So I want to get some information just on, I know you're teaching them, but what are they teaching you? Because I'm sure it has to be absolutely fulfilling to work with young people that have the same love for this craft that you have had.
They are teaching me that there's always a new way to do an old thing. I am a theater, what we call a theater generalist, and we don't really cultivate a theater generalist anymore. But as a theater generalist, I can do everything. I know how to build sets. I know how to write. I know how to act. I know how to costume. I know how to light. I can do all of the basics and everything to create a theatrical production. I know how to do all those things. This is what I really want to teach my students, how to do all of those things too. But with the advent of technology, there are new ways and new avenues of accomplishing those things. With AI, now we have the opportunity to really create something that we had to hire other people to do. And now we can create some of these things ourselves. And no matter how you feel about AI, because it is a touchy subject, we need to use this technology that is here. It's not going anywhere. And in fact, it's going to get bigger and bigger and more widely used. And there are new regulations and things, that new laws, new ways of trying to control AI so that it doesn't overtake the things that an intellectual mind can produce. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the students are teaching me new ways to make those things happen, new ways to go out into the world. When I was their age, if you said you were going to be in theater or in television and film, you had to move to New York or you had to move to um, LA. And now, and then later on, it was like you can move to Atlanta. And then now they was like, you can move to Wilmington, North Carolina, because I have a large studio there and everything. But I haven't had to move. I haven't had to. I'm still in a small southern town in South Carolina. I'm still in, a bigger town, a bigger town in South Carolina now. But the fact remains, you can get to your dream from wherever you are. And the students are showing me how I can do that. But they're also showing me too that there is a level of passion that you have to continually reignite. And because I'm always trying to reignite it in them, life comes at them hard. The young people today deal with more things than we had to deal with, I think, just because the world around us has changed. Their parents have a tendency to be younger than our parents. They have a tendency to have more bills, more things. We didn't have a cell phone bill because we didn't have cell phones when I was growing up. So they have a cell phone bill, they have social media, they are influenced by so many things outside of their neighborhood, where our neighborhood was our influence growing up. We didn't even have when I grew up. Oh, this might be telling my age. We didn't even have call waiting. You know how you could call somebody and you get the little beat like, yeah, let me switch over. No, we didn't have a switch over. When they came up with the switch over, we like, oh, when they came up with three-way calling, honey, we thought we were just, oh man, we were Star Wars, honey. We were way, way into technology and everything. And we just thought it was something so different. But what I'm getting from them is those wonderful things. They are teaching me new ways to do things. And they're also showing me that you have to keep reigniting the flame, because I keep reigniting the flame for them, getting them to get focused. Get focused. What do you want to do? One thing I want everyone to know, and I'm pretty sure we'll get to this, but while we're here, I'll just talk about it. What I want everyone watching this to know is that it's never too late for you to live your dream. Look at me. I'm over 25 and I'm living my dream. I've always wanted to work with Mr. Perry. So this is a great opportunity. And I worked with Mr. Perry. And honey, it was, let's say, well, how does it feel to live your dream? When I walked on the set, I was a little kooky. I'm like, I'm Ursula. I'm playing Linda. Because I was like, I can't believe I'm on the set with Tyler Perry. And the first scene that I shot was with Megan Good. I was like, wow. And then and then in that particular scene, I also had to sing with Debbie Morgan, with Joseph Lee Anderson, with Richard, I call him King Richard, and Taylor. And I was like, oh my gosh. And it was like, oh my gosh, Lord, God, look, all of that. And so it was really wonderful. Live your dream. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't listen to what other people have to say. If you feel like this is what God has designed for you, then go after it. But also to get the training. Because even though I have 3 degrees, even though I've been teaching acting and different things for over 30 years, I still needed training. I still needed coaching. And I know a lot of people, I used to feel this way too, that I didn't need coaching. I don't need nobody telling me how to da da da, because I can act, but I needed coaching. Not to teach me the fundamentals of acting, but to help me get used to this new medium, because it's a new medium, and to get over my own fears, because I had to deal with my own fears of growing up and being told that who I was physically didn't work for television and film. So I had to get rid of all those old tapes and get myself in a position that, yeah, film loves me.
Mhm. I love it, and I was actually going to ask you about following your dreams, and you said that perfectly. And I feel like we touched on that, just how the industry will make somebody think their appearance isn't good enough for film or television or whatever we're trying to pursue. Sometimes people are trying to pursue things that's not even in media, but their appearance is holding them back. And I know, like, obviously you were able to overcome that, but we're all a work in progress. So, like, what did you do to just how do you work on your confidence? Because I know I would think being on film, being on camera, it could just, it can mess with your mind sometimes. And we live in a critical world. And like you said, and you definitely told age, because I definitely know, like, if you had call waiting, or when you paid for three-way, kids don't understand any of that stuff. So I definitely, definitely aced us both. But, we live in a different time right now.
Right, you definitely do.
Viral, and so how do you just work with having that confidence to just still pursue those dreams? Because like I said, not having that confidence, having imposter syndrome, people thinking that they're less than when they're
Right,
really prize, will hold back a person from pursuing a dream that's meant just for them. So
right.
how are you able to keep that confidence going? And we all have good and bad days, but how are you able to keep it going?
Um, I'm just gonna be really, really honest with you. Um, a lot of times on this journey, I gave up, but I didn't. I would say quietly quitting, and I quietly quit, and I sat back and like, oh, it's just too much. I had a lot of bumps and stuff, and trying to even just to get everything together, because I'm not just a professor, I'm over the drama program at South Carolina State University. But I also write a lot of the shows that we do, and I work, and I'm on councils, and I'm on this. So I had a lot of life that was lifing at the same time I was trying to do these things. And I had to make decisions about where I was placing my energy and whatever is going on. And sometimes I would be like, oh man. But what God did, oh man, I'm not gonna cry. There were times when I couldn't even make a complete step,
Mm,
but I made a half a step and God turned it into three.
mm, yes.
A lot of people go through things in making it in this industry that I didn't have to go through, coming back through. And I tried doing this industry when I was 18. My first commercial audition was for a Biscuitville commercial. I just remember my mama driving me to the commercial. We don't know what we doing. And I just saw the commercial ad somewhere in the paper or something. I don't even know how I found out about it. And I remember my mother driving me as a high school student to go to this audition. And the Biscuitville commercial is still out. It's where all of them in the elevator looking at their watches and all this stuff. And I said my audition was just I was just a group of us in we went in the elevator, which is in a square, and they were like, okay, just be waiting. Oh no, they were on the jury,
Hmm.
and they had a jury thing, and I auditioned for that. And I was like, oh man, this is big for me. For me, it was real big. I was like, oh my God, I was devastated I didn't get it, but I thought, hey, at least I went through and made it through. Now come to later on in life, as I go to auditions and to do things, now we're self-taping and we're not doing it in person. So that's an adjustment. I feel like, or I felt, I can kill a room, but can I kill a self-tape? I hope you don't mind me using the word. It's somewhere we Some people use it that way, which
Mhm.
means that you're successful.
Mm. Okay.
So now I had to deal with learning how to self tape, and that's an art form all its own. I've never been someone who believed that I couldn't act
Mm.
because I will argue you down, honey. Sister girl can act,
Mhm.
and you there's something you can never take away from me. I know how to act. I know how to take a script from page to stage. And it's not being cocky, it's just what I know because I perfected this gift over time. I know how to harness what my gift is, but I had to learn how to harness it for the self tape. And so in learning how to do that, I met people along the way who helped me and who did that. And it was just like, I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. So you're like, well, Ursula, what do you mean? During COVID, everyone stopped filming, right? Because of COVID. Well, Jack Kennedy with he's the casting, one of the casting directors, part of the casting director team for CSI.
Mhm.
Well, they put out this audition notice and they were like, listen, we want to meet new actors. So people send in your self tapes.
Mhm.
And we're gonna look at these self tapes so we get to know new actors. Something you can do during COVID while we're down. And a lot of people were doing it. And I was like, man, I'm tired of doing all these things. I ain't heard back from these people. I don't know. And my girlfriend Deneen Rochelle, Deneen said, okay, Ursula, do this one. She's like, okay, forget all the other ones. Just do this one, okay? She's like, Miss Ursula, just do this one. I was like, okay. So I did it. I think I did it in April. And I heard back and got an inbox from Jack Kennedy in like August sometime. And he said, I am featuring African American actors who are not represented. And I want to know if you would like to be a part of that group of actors.
Mm.
I said, what? Now his audition that I wasn't about to do,
Mhm.
I was featured on his Instagram and I didn't have an agent. And because I was featured, agents started inboxing me and managers. So I ended up with an agent from that particular audition. You see how I took that half step and
Mhm.
God turned it into three?
Mhm.
And after I got an agent, then I booked stars, Hightown. I started doing different. You get what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So for me, some of the struggles and people, things that actors have gone through, I think that developmentally, I went through them earlier in my career so that when I get to this place, God can move me forward because some of the things, some of the lessons that you need to master, I have already mastered them in other areas. And maybe that's what it is. And I didn't ask God because I didn't want to question what they say. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Or I wasn't trying to question God about the gifts and the beautifulness of this thing. I'm glad I didn't have to go through all some of the angst that some of these younger actors go through. But that door open. And then a lot of times doors open and people say to me, well, Ursula, how did you get with Tyler Perry? I auditioned. I didn't send him a text message. I didn't find him in a grocery store. And in fact, I actually work for Mark Swindon, who is also a writer and director there. And I've forgotten his official title, so forgive me.
Mhm.
And I did a pilot with him. And I did that, and then I auditioned for this. I've auditioned for Mr. Perry before and didn't get picked. And
Mm.
so this role was meant for me.
Wow. Oof. Wow, that's a word. That's a testimony. Number one.
Yes.
And like you said a word because like you said, sometimes I think what we don't understand, things don't have to be perfect. We gonna have bad days. It doesn't mean that
Yes.
you don't have faith. It doesn't mean that you don't believe. But
Right.
day is not promised to be perfect. They're not
Right.
supposed to be perfect every single day. There's times you're gonna get tired. There's some days you're gonna want to quit. But like you said, you took a half step and he took 3 steps. He took 10.
3 steps.
But you know what I'm saying? All we have to the faith can only be the only has to be the size of a mustard seed. And it's just a testimony of just believing in yourself, believing in your dreams, and believing that God will provide. And what's meant for you is for you.
It is for
No,
you.
and don't let
It
those
is.
no's get you. Like you said, you've auditioned for a Tyler Perry before.
Yeah.
This was meant for you. So it's just like I said, it's a true testimony, and just believing in yourself, just having confidence in yourself, and just not letting anything deter you from your dreams. And like I said, it's okay to have some days where it's like, I don't want to do this, but as long as you don't sit in it, because we're human,
Right.
we get tired. So
Right.
that is home.
If you go back and look at people who had like they'll be calling this my breakout moment, and then here, this is my breakout role. And if you go back and you look at people when they have a breakout role and everything, and you go back and read and listen to them talk about it, they'll talk about, yeah, I almost quit, then I got this role, or I almost did this and then I got this role and everything. And and I had a friend that said, I don't believe it when these actors say that, because as actors, we quit every day. As actors, we going, man, because you have to make sure that when you are moving forward in anything, that you define success in such a way that you're not defeated by not meeting that goal. So, what is success for an actor in television and film? Getting somebody to want you to audition, because they can send in your picture, your agent can send in your picture and your profile and try to get somebody, hey, this would be perfect for this role. And they'd be like, nah, I'm good.
Mm,
Right? You don't know how many times that happens, because you never get that feedback. But what you do get is an invitation to audition. An invitation to audition means that out of these 50,000, 100,000 people, now with Jack Kennedy, I think he may have featured 50 or 100 actors. I'm not even sure if it was that many, but I remember him saying that they got at least 50,000 auditions. So when you get an invitation to audition, that means you have crossed a hurdle.
mhm.
That's success.
Wow. Wow.
And when you get an availability check, which means that you send in your audition, they like what they see, and they're sending up this small number of people up to the next level, to the casting directors. And then you have to go through several yeses in order to do that. So whenever someone gets a role, there are at least 4 or 5 levels of yes that you have to go through, depending upon how this production is run. But you're going to have to get more than one yes, right? Especially, and even with independent films, you get the writer and director who'll say yes. Then they'll put look at you with one of the other actors, see how y'all work together. You might have to do what they call a chemistry read, where you put the two people together and see how their chemistry is on film. How do they look together? Do they give whatever I'm trying to say as a couple, as a mother daughter, as whatever? And all those things have to be taken into consideration. So as you are quitting and doing all this other stuff, if you define your success in a way that enables you to keep moving and feeling successful and not feeling like you're defeated, then that's going to solve half of your quitting problems, and that's going to solve a lot of your issues and concerns that you may have with, am I successful? Should I keep doing this? And these are things that I've learned over time, and I've learned them as a coach, and I've learned them from my coaches. This is something that Christine Horn, who was one of the first coaches that I had in television and film acting, and this is something that she says, defining success, because your success is the audition invitation. That's a yes. You got a yes. Be excited that you got a yes. And I'm also do a lot of mindset training. Now I'm doing a lot of mindset training and stuff, as we can determine how we look at things. And if you can change the framework of how you see a situation, then you could take what could be devastation and turn it into a step up.
Oof. Mindset is everything, because it's how we look at things. And
Yes.
it sounds cliche, but it's true. It's how we look at things. Just like glass half empty, half full. It's how you look at things. It can change your perspective and it can change your life, because if you always look at things in a negative, and then I always talk about this a lot, rejection and the word no. Rejection for some people is devastating. The word no for
Yes.
people is devastating. The word rejection is redirection for others. The word no means not right now for others. So it really is how you look at things,
How
because
you look at
just
it.
like you mentioned too, when you we've all seen it. We'll hear somebody saying, "Oh, well, this is the biggest role in my life," and they'll be at rock bottom previously. Like, "Oh, I was about to give in. I almost took my life." They'll tell you so many
Yeah.
terrible, sad things that was going on before they received that gift. Sometimes that blessing is like right around the corner, and
Yes.
like I said, a lot of it sounds cliche, but it really is true. And it's mindset, it's faith. It takes a lot, but it all goes back to just don't give up, because things may look crazy to you, but it's all working for your good and your faith.
Right.
It is, and then, like I said, we're all human, so we don't wake up every day like, okay, God, I'm having all these problems, but you know what? I'm just gonna go for it. Like, no, we have some days where we like, really, like, why is this happening to me? Like,
Right.
this cannot be really happening.
Right.
This is not right,
Right.
but just having that mindset to shift your perspective, like it's okay. And that's the thing. I think sometimes we want to knock people for just sometimes saying, hey, like, I'm just having a rough day. I'm having a rough time. This is not working. It's okay to feel like that. But, if you just start putting things in perspective, it will
Hmm.
shift your perspective and it'll bless.
That's it.
So I wanted to ask you, of course, on our platform, we do talk about self-love. Self-love really is the fuel to pursue those dreams and to love yourself, and also love yourself in the uniform God has given us. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Some of us
Right.
don't fit these perfect aesthetics, and we still have to keep pushing. So self-love is just believing in yourself, loving yourself, saying, hey, I belong in these rooms. So I want
Right.
to ask you, what role has self-love played in your life? And how do you define self love as well?
Well, I think self love has become like a buzzword for people. And so when people think about self love, they think about it in different ways,
Yeah.
just like you said, in different ways. And so when I think about self love, the first thing I think about is self love is making me a priority, making sure that my desires are my priority, as opposed to doing some self abandonment, which means that in a situation, I will get rid of my desires, get rid of what I want, and just do what someone else wants. There are times in your life where you'll make compromises or you'll make decisions. Because even I've heard people say that even saying the word compromise can be mind altering in a negative way. But there'll come times in your life where you may not have your specific desire, but by making a different choice so that you and this person can work together and make something happen, it could create something better than just your single desire. So I take those things into account. But what about Ursula? What about me? What's going to be the best for me? How can I be my best? How can I protect my peace? How can I keep my body going? How can I do this thing in such a way that I'm fulfilled? Um, when I look at friendships, is this friendship taking care of Ursula?
Mm,
Is this friendship bringing me some joy, or am I the crutch in the friendship?
mm,
Self love to me is putting Ursula first. And it's not in a negative way, because you can ask anybody. I love people. I help people out all the time. I do things for people. I consider people and doing that, but not at the cost of me.
mm,
And I used to do those things at the cost of me, because we are taught that loving people means making these grand sacrifices. And loving people means sometimes you show them, as my spiritual mother says, here's the brick wall, hit it,
mm,
because you don't want to accept the advice. We're so used to getting in front of people to let them hit us instead of the brick wall. And what I have learned is that there are times when people need a brick wall because they won't turn around until they hit it. And if I am constantly in front of the brick wall, they'll never get the lesson. They'll never hit the place where they can turn around and build a great lives for themselves. So, that to me is self love. And self love to me also is making sure that I'm showing up in places and spaces in a way that I want to show up, the way that I want to be perceived, the way that this
Mm.
situation may call for this, but I'm with just a little hint about who I am. I'm that person who's gonna wear that outfit that you go, wow, because I like being a little flashy. That's just part of who I am. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay showing up somewhere and not being
Mm.
like everybody else in the room. That's been happening to me all my life. I'm used to it. So I
Mm.
show up. Hey, I may not be dressed like everybody else. I may be a little over. I like to overdress, is what I like to do. So I like to overdress and stuff. And I'm very okay with that. And people who know me are very okay with that. I like, because I'm a theater person, maybe I like
Mm.
costumey stuff. So that's to me is self love. And I think that self love is also, too, about taking care of your body and doing those things like that and that stuff. Yeah. So the self love that I demonstrated in all of this and in making this film is that I made a decision that this story was big enough for me to wear a slip. That was some self love. This story was bigger than, to me, it was bigger than a slip, because a slip to me wasn't that a big deal. But I know lots of people are like, oh my God. But if I had walked into church with some pearls with that on and you thought you would have thunk it was a dress. So, except for my little strap showing in the back. But that's self love for me. And I hope that that can help someone else discover those things for yourself, because my definition of self love is always evolving, it's always changing as I learn more about me and learn more about the world around me. It is evolving. But right now, it is about making sure that my desires are my priority. Do you know someone who spends all their
Mm.
time running, chasing, doing for others? They look run down, they look like they're unhappy. And a lot of times, those people are doing those things because they have found their fulfillment in making others happy because there's something missing in them. So, doing for others keeps you from having to deal with yourself. Don't fall into that dangerous
Mm.
trap, because people will see it and they will use you and they will abuse you because they know that you're hurt and broken and that you're doing these
Mm.
things because it makes you feel better and you don't have to deal with yourself. Stop all of that.
Mm.
What about you?
Mm.
What about your desires? What do you want? What is a priority for you? And you got to put that thing out there, and you got to draw these lines and draw these boundaries and let people know that this is not okay with me. I'm not telling you that you got to take your dress off and put somebody out. But what I am telling you is that you need to establish the boundaries.
Mm.
Doing this or doing that or having this relationship is not valuing me.
Mm. You said a lot, and oh my God, if a broken person is literally like a silent alarm, because if you don't have that healing and if you're broken, you're navigating through a broken lens, and it attracts the
Mhm.
wrong people, it attracts the wrong
Yes.
friends, it attracts the wrong romantic partners, it attracts wrong people even in business
Mhm.
relationships, work relationships, even in your family, because that brokenness, it's an unhealed wound, and an unhealed wound, it seeps in people. There are leeches out there, unfortunately. There's emotional vampires, and it will bring the wrong people, and like you said, you'll run yourself ragged trying to please everybody else and thinking that that's going to fulfill you, when all it is draining and taking more away from you. So that is so
Yes.
important what you said, that part of self-love is to not, and like I said, we all have a cross to bear, but to just try and just find that accountability for ourselves and have that
Mm-hmm.
self forgiveness for ourselves so that we're not walking through life broken, because that brokenness attracts the wrong people, and people aren't what we think they are. They're not looking at you like, oh, this is a broken little puppy. Let me, help you. No, they gonna like, let me
Mm-hmm.
take some more from you. And it's
Right.
hey, but not everybody, of course, but you have to really work on that healing through self love, because it will bring the wrong people. So this has
One,
been an amazing conversation. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut
oh, I
you off.
just wanted to say this. One of the things that I found from this film is because the idea of self-love and drawing boundaries and all that stuff is really expressed in all these different relationships. If you look at the different relationships in Divorce in the Black, and you'll see that this movie, Ava, is this girl who was so happy. We thought she was well adjusted and we thought she was all together. But then she picks this broken man and
Mhm,
she ends up trying to fix him.
mhm,
And we see that he is broken and that he wants to pull on her because he can see the good stuff in her and he is sucking out her stuff. So she didn't have no self love going on in there. And one of the things that has happened is that I have seen responses from former students
mhm,
who talk about, and even other people, oh man, this young lady, I was at an event and this young lady, she grabbed my hands and she was, I would say, I'm not going to cry, but she was like, I watched the movie and she was in a relationship where the mother in law was like Linda
mhm,
and the husband was like Dallas. But she's now remarried and in a loving relationship, thought she was over everything, but the movie brought everything back.
mhm,
And so now she has to deal with those things. And I was like, yeah, because you can have a greater level of love for the current husband who does none of those things, is not any of those things that her ex-husband was. So now you can have a whole different kind of relationship with him once you get that healed. And I've had students write posts, former students write posts about how they were triggered, how these things happen. I was like, oh my God, I never knew you went through that. I never knew that they had those kind of experiences. So it has really definitely opened up my eyes to just continue to look at people differently and to be open, because you never know what a person has gone through. Doesn't mean that I remove my boundaries. It doesn't mean that I still don't take care of me. But what I can do is offer you love, guidance, bring you to someone who can help you navigate this world even better, but mostly love on you and support you in making the right decisions. So, anyone who watches this movie, and I suggest you watch it because it's a great movie. If you watch this movie and you are triggered, or something comes up for you, please get help. Find you someone that you can talk to, deal with these emotions, and grow. At the premiere, Tyler Perry said this, and he's probably said in some other interviews, and I may be saying it not word perfect,
mhm,
but he said he wrote this movie for people who love hard and don't know how to leave. And that is exactly kind of what this movie is. And he talked about having the voice of Ava in his head.
mhm,
And so I'm telling all of the Avas in the world, and even the Dallases of the world, and even the Lindas of the world, because I met some Lindas too. Um, what I'm telling you now is that if you see yourself and you know that there's something that needs to be fixed and worked out in you, find the help.
mhm,
Is out there. The help is out there. And the first place you can start, if you particularly go, if you go to a church, you go to your spiritual leader. And there are mental health things that you can go to, therapists, social workers, those kind of people, so that you can find the help. And if you feel like you can't go talk to anybody, get you a book, honey, and read that book and start to do the things and stuff that are in that book. Because if you don't take charge of your own life, then you are giving your life as a sacrifice to the person who abused you.
mhm.
Now, do you want to give your life as a sacrificial offering for someone that did something to you, that changed you and made you different, made you hate people, what you can do is you can take back the power from that situation. Love yourself. Let it go. Let the wounds heal and be the best you that you can be. It's time for you to stop sacrificing yourself on the altar of hurt.
Mm, wow. And something about, like you mentioned, how Ava didn't practice self love, but like you mentioned, a good point. That generational curse from Linda to Dallas and through her kids. So that's another thing too about that self hurt, not having that
Mhm.
self love, showing how it really will trickle down to different generations, and then those different generations, it affects them everywhere in their relationships, how they deal with people. So that's a very good example that you mentioned. Just not just Ava, because like you said, Dallas too. Obviously, come on, it showed the background of dysfunction, really, like a
Mhm.
dysfunctional family. Like this is what will
Mhm.
happen with dysfunctional relationships, this dysfunctional
Right.
parenting, dysfunctional relationship between a mother and a son. Just
Mhm.
and no accountability. This is what could possibly happen. So I'm happy that you did mention that as well. But I want to ask you to, like I said, this has been an amazing conversation, and we've hit on some deep points, and we've definitely talked about self love. And I'm just happy how, like you mentioned, like I said, there's a lot of chat about this film, but I'm happy that you went deep, and it is a portrait of what being unhealed can do from every perspective, from Ava, from Dallas, from the mother, from her sons, and how her family was living their lives.
Mhm.
So I want to ask you, can you give us an affirmation, just an affirmation, just to maybe apply to your life, and whether you could choose the subject, but can you give us an affirmation, whether it's on the subject of healing or whether it's the subject of following your dreams? Just can you give us an affirmation to leave for with this conversation?
Mhm. I think the best one I could give you, as you said, that what came to me is I am worthy and I am enough.
Mm,
I am worthy. What are you worthy of? You're worthy of a healthy relationship. You're worthy of being respected. You're worthy of being treated like you are somebody special, because everybody is. Everybody has something unique to offer, and you are enough. Stop trying to make yourself into something else to be something for someone else when you are enough. That covers everything. Worthy and enough. You're worthy of a great life, and you are enough to have it executed. Be the person that you dream of. One of my wealth coach, one of my wealth coaches, right? But my wealth coach said this, that there are two lives that we lead: the one that we're living and the one that we dream about on the inside.
mm,
So, are you ready for that inside life that you dream about? Because you're enough and you're worthy of that life. What stands in your way?
mm. Wow. And also, we got to remember it, like you said, we're worthy, we're valuable. Like we
Yes.
deserve, having that mindset of, okay, I deserve, like you said, we deserve the life that we dream about. You don't have to continue to dream and fantasize about certain things. You can achieve them and become them and live that life. So I love it. That is amazing. So thank you, thank you, thank you for this conversation. This has been a
Thank
beautiful
you.
blessing. But before we end everything, tell us what's next. What can we expect in the future? Where can we see you again? So give us
Okay.
insight on where we're going to see that face again.
Okay. Coming up this fall, I don't know the exact date, but I know it will be this year. I did a television series with Tyler Perry called Beauty in Black. And I play a woman named Delinda, and that's going to be on Netflix. And also, I am directing and producing for the drama program at South Carolina State University. We'll be announcing our season soon. I got to go through some stuff before I can make the official announcement. And so look out for that. If you want to follow me, you can follow me at Ursula O. Robinson on Facebook and at Ursula O. Robinson on Instagram, at Lady U Drama on TikTok. At on Twitter is at Ursula O. Robinson, and on excuse me, Twitter has never come X. On X is at Ursula O. Robinson, and on Snapchat I think I'm at Lady U Drama.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this conversation. Like I said, I just appreciate your time. And I just like that we didn't just have a conversation about a film. We talked about just loving yourself, following
Yes.
things. We covered so many topics. This could be about 5 different episodes, but like I said, this is a work in progress. Everybody
Yes.
has a thorn and everybody has a
Right.
cross to bear. We all
Right.
are a work in progress. And we all
Yes.
have a dream. That dream may not be
Yes.
media, but whatever that dream is, you can have that dream. Like you
Yes.
said, we don't have to keep fantasizing and thinking, oh, maybe if only I could have that. You can have that. It is all
Right.
about mindset, believing in yourself, having that faith, and what God placed in you. You owe it to show Him, like, I believe you. I trust that dream that you put in my mind. That gift is for me. You gave it
Right.
to me, so
So
I
let me
do
so
it.
like look, I asked this question. What if you decided not to do your podcast? What if you say, I'm not doing it, I'm not this, and there is a group of people who are waiting to see your podcast? It has all been lined up since the beginning of time that these people needed to see the people on your podcast because it's going to open a door that's going to set them free, that's going to send them on a journey for them to be who they need to be so somebody else can see it. So by not doing your dream, what using your gift, you are in essence stopping someone from getting where they could be because you were the avenue or you were the spark that they needed. So if you would think about it in that way, you got to do it,
Mm,
right? You got to do it because while you're igniting other people, you're igniting your own self.
mm. Now, see, you're not making me cry, but like,
So I thank you for having me on here. And I thank you for the opportunity. And I thank you for putting yourself out there and letting your voice be used to further good in the world. There's so many bad things happening, and there's so much else going on in the world. Honey, you're positive. You're putting good vibes and good word out there into the universe. And I thank you for that.
oh, thank you. I can't. I don't have any. I don't have any words. I'm speechless. Thank you, and I definitely needed that, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate your humbleness too. Like I said, don't forget about us when you when you make more films with Mr. Perry. Don't forget about us because we do need people like yourself that are like, hey, you can follow that dream, you can pursue it, you can believe
Yes.
in yourself, you can still be humble, you can still be yourself and
Yes.
pursue that dream. So, like I said,
Yes.
you people like you are needed as well because this life is life. Life is hard. So, and a lot of people, like I said, they're sitting on dreams. They don't know how to navigate it. Sometimes they really don't have. They really don't have a positive ear. They
Mhm.
don't have that positive information. So I
Right.
appreciate you as well. So, guys, please, please, please. I know y'all already seen Divorce in Black, but we have talked about a different perspective from the film too,
Mhm.
because sometimes you gotta go deep to really get a.
Yes.
And when we watch films, that's the beautiful thing about Black media. We can watch these movies, we can watch these TV shows, and yeah, we can sit down and watch a 2 hour film or a 30 minute TV show and
Mhm.
just watch it and go about our business and, maybe tweet about it. But when we watch these pieces of work and we really sit back and try and get a perspective on it and try and see
Mhm.
ourselves, we can learn lessons. And some of the works that you at least expect has a big lesson in them. So again, guys, please go ahead, follow Miss Ursula. Go ahead and watch Divorce in Black again. And ladies, remember there was a time when we did wear slips. So thank you guys for putting that in there too, because that definitely brought me back. But again, this has been an amazing conversation. This has blessed me. And guys, if you want to get some more positive content, you can catch this episode and more at www.goqueen.com. And again, this platform was created because there's a lot of negativity in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to create something where we can tune in and get some positivity, whether it's 30 minutes of positivity. Those 30 minutes may make a big difference in the next person's life. And no, this has not been easy having this platform, but it really does mean something to me that you guys can have some content that is positive, that's some knowledge, and I hope that it really does help people. So thank you again for that encouragement, Ms. Robinson. I really needed it. And thank you guys again for tuning in, and be safe and make sure you go love yourself.
Yes.
She's a queen about her business, working hard on a mission.